It's Wednesday, July 27th, and this is your coffee break on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski with the latest local news. Frank Granito will have a look at the forecast and a Nutmeg Sports update later on, and Donna Lang will join us to take a look back on this day in history. But first, on to today's headlines. Ansonia Police are requesting help in locating a male suspect involved in a violent domestic incident on Saturday. The female victim was held against her will, threatened at knife point, physically assaulted, and choked to the point of losing consciousness during the course of that incident. Police have a warrant in that case for the arrest of 38-year-old Justin Nicholas Bond. He lives at 33 Winter Street in Ansonia. He's white, 6'1", about 200 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Ansonia Police ask if anyone knows his location or sees him to please contact their local police department. And in Bridgeport, the theft of a radioactive device was traced back to a pawn shop. The Connecticut Post reports that the device, known as a Troxler gauge, is used to measure soil density and is worth about $7,000. It went missing from the trunk of a vehicle of a Douglas Street home around 7 in the morning on Tuesday. The trunk had been broken into and chains that were securing the gauge had been cut. The Bridgeport Police Department reached out to pawn shops across the city, and an alert worker at East Coast Pawn on Glenwood Avenue called around 4:15 in the afternoon, saying that he believed a man had just brought in that stolen nuclear gauge. A short time later, police arrested a man identified as 28-year-old Carlos Hernandez of Noble Avenue as he left the pawn shop. Hernandez was charged with larceny and credit card fraud. After the gauge was reported missing, state police and the FBI joined in that investigation. Captain Brian Fitzgerald said that the new U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission was also notified of that theft. State and local police suggested that it was just a simple theft and not a conscious plot to obtain nuclear material. And Stratford Police are investigating a shooting on Burritt Avenue reported around 10 o'clock Monday night. Police say a black man got out of an SUV and fired about 2 rounds at another SUV, which then struck a parked car. All those involved then fled the scene. Stratford Police say they attempted to interview a person of interest at Bridgeport Hospital, but that person was uncooperative and would not speak with officers. Burritt Avenue runs south of Barnum Avenue to Hollister Street, and that incident is under investigation. Stratford Police are asking anyone with information to contact them at 203-385-4119. And a second moving company employee has been arrested in connection with the theft of a firearm in Shelton. 44-year-old Nicholas Patch of Milford was arrested Tuesday, charged with conspiracy to steal a firearm. Patch posted a $500 bond and is due in court in September. On April 28th, the day that gun was reported stolen, Shelton Police arrested 22-year-old Anthony David Trotta of Stratford and charged him with theft of a firearm. Police investigating a theft from a residence learned that the victim was moving at the time. He returned to the house he was leaving to personally move the firearm to his new home, but then discovered it was missing and immediately contacted police. The gun was then found hidden in the woods down the street from that residence that was being vacated. Shelton detectives interviewed employees of the moving company and determined that Trotta was involved in that theft. Shelton Police did not identify the moving company. And videos of a Darien Police stop have garnered more than 50,000 views following accusations of racial profiling by Darien officers. Bridgeport resident Matthew McGee, a black man, posted 3 videos to YouTube on July 17th showing Darien Police following and stopping him as he rode his bicycle along Searles Road. Police said they stopped McGee as part of a neighborhood canvass. A home burglary was reported nearby Old Farms Road earlier in the morning, and police said McGee matched the description of one of those suspects. In the video, McGee explains that he is on his way to work at the Tokenie Club and bikes on the route regularly. McGee said he never meant for the video to go viral, as he rarely actually posts anything online, however. But he said, "I didn't intend for it to go viral, but the backlash and comments I see, the racism is there." Darien officials have not acknowledged any misconduct on the part of the officer, saying that officer was acting in part of a larger investigation. At a panel discussion on race held by U.S. Representative Jim Himes on Monday, McGee expressed some disappointment at the police department's lack of apology for the stop, which he felt was unjustified. But you can find out more about that panel discussion at DarienTimes.com. And Fire Marshal William B. Davin said the town of Monroe Fire Department was busy during Monday's thunderstorm when they responded to 2 structural fires. Davin said that the first fire was reported around 3:45 in the afternoon at an older colonial-style farmhouse that was built in the early 1700s. He said damage was confined to a kitchen cabinet and PVC plumbing pipe after a lightning strike sparked that blaze. He said the homeowner's quick actions with a home fire extinguisher kept that fire in check until the fire department arrived. And Stepney Fire Chief Scott Rose and 28 firefighters responded to the second fire, which was reported about 7:10 in the evening. Davin said the homeowner called 911, reporting that their house had been struck by lightning and was filling up with smoke. A basement fire was quickly extinguished by firefighters on the scene. Davin said there was moderate damage to the basement and an exterior first-floor wall of the house. He said that the firefighters had to open an interior wall to confirm that the fire was completely extinguished. And over the last few days, boaters and fishermen have reported sightings of humpback whales in the far western stretch of Long Island Sound. There are believed to be multiple humpbacks close to the shore feeding on small fish. NOAA Fisheries asked boaters in Long Island Sound particularly to keep a close eye out for those feeding whales and to remember to follow safe viewing guidelines, which includes staying 100 feet away from the whales for safety and theirs. Humpback whales can reach lengths of 60 feet and can weigh around 40 tons. Humpbacks create bubble clouds to corral their prey and then lunge through the center to swallow the small fish. Fishermen or boaters in those bubble patches run the risk of colliding with a massive whale as it rapidly approaches the surface. When a whale collides with a vessel, it can be gravely injured and die from its injuries. But switching gears now, we're going to throw it over to Frank for a look at the forecast. Frank.
Thank you, Kate. We are in day 7 of the heat wave, and it looks to be another hot one out there today. Mostly sunny with a high of 91 degrees and a light breeze throughout the day. Clear skies tonight, and we will see a low of 70. Partly cloudy tomorrow as we see humidity start to jump up as we get ready for a weekend full of storms. High of 89 during the day and overcast throughout the night with a low of 68. And Friday, we can expect only a high of about 79, but humidity will be up around 85%. There'll be plenty of rainfall and thunderstorms throughout the day and early into the evening. It'll be partly cloudier later that night with a low of 69. As we get ready for what looks to be a pretty wet weekend, Kate.
All right, thanks so much, Frank. Well, we're going to step out for a break, and when we come back, Donald Eng will take a look back on this day in history. Frank has a Nutmeg Sports update, and we have more local news coming up after this. Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Chop off your knives to be sharpened. Grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
I'm Frank Renito.
And I'm Donald Eng for the HAN Network.
Tune in to Nutmeg Sports Monday through Wednesday, where we bring you all the top stories for Connecticut sports.
From players and coaches' interviews to expert opinions with local sports editors, no one gets you closer to Connecticut's games than Nutmeg Sports.
Nutmeg Sports, Monday through Wednesday at 2 p.m. on the HAN Network.
You're watching the HAN Network, and you're not alone. More than 1.5 million viewers have watched our live sports, news, and entertainment broadcasting since the network launched in August 2015. Advertise on the network that reaches Fairfield County, Connecticut's most engaged audience. Contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
We're back on this Wednesday, July 27th edition of your Coffee Break on the HAN Network, and it's time to throw it over to Donald Ang for a look back on this day in history. Don, what do you have for us today?
Well, Kate, we begin in 1794. At the height of the French Revolution, Maximilien Robespierre arrested after encouraging the execution of more than 17,000 enemies of the French Revolution. Ironically, Robespierre had been known as a proponent of equal treatment under law and universal voting rights, and also a vocal opponent of the death penalty before the revolution. Robespierre himself would eventually be executed. To 1981, a sad story. 6-year-old Adam Walsh, son of John Walsh, kidnapped in Hollywood, Florida, found murdered 2 weeks later. John Walsh went on to lobby for legislative changes, including the Missing Children's Act of 1982. He also founded the forerunner to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, in addition to being a regular presence on television beginning in 1988 with the program America's Most Wanted. Speaking of America's Most Wanted, 1996, 20 years ago, oh, sorry about that. In Atlanta, a pipe bomb explodes at the Centennial Olympic Park during the Summer Olympics. It was the first of 4 bombings by Eric Robert Rudolph, a domestic terrorist, motivated by what he called the government's sanctioning of abortion on demand. Security guard Richard Jewell discovered the bomb and cleared most of the spectators out of the park, but after the bombings, he was falsely implicated as a suspect by the FBI, and the news media focused aggressively on him as the presumed culprit. In October, Jewell was exonerated when the FBI declared he was no longer a person of interest. He eventually collected more than $1 million in damages from CNN, NBC, the New York Post, and his former employer, Piedmont College. Jewell died in 1997 at the age of 44. Rudolph is serving life in prison without parole. And finally, now we go to 1953. The shooting stopped, but the war continues. Look at this.
We have stopped the shooting. That means much to the fighting men and their families, and it will allow some of the grievous wounds of Korea to heal. Therefore, I am thankful. The task now is to put the ceasefire agreement into full effect and get down to working out an enduring settlement of the Korean problem. I cannot find it in me to exult in this hour. Rather, it is a time for prayer, that we may succeed in our difficult endeavor to turn this armistice to the advantage of mankind.
Yes, on this day, 1953, fighting in the Korean War officially ends when the United States, China, and North Korea sign an armistice agreement. Syngman Rhee, the president of South Korea, does not sign the armistice, but pledges to observe it. The armistice remains in effect today, but there has been no peace treaty, and technically North and South Korea remain at war, with the two sides periodically exchanging gunfire across the demilitarized zone, sometimes even resulting in fatalities. That is your look back in history for today, July 27th, and I'm Donald Ang.
All right, thank you so much, Don. Getting back to a little more news today. In Darien, after multiple meetings full of discussion, debate, slideshows, and guidelines, the Board of Education unanimously approved Superintendent Dr. Dan Brenner's proposal for stadium lights at Darien High School. There was some discussion about certain aspects of that proposal prior to the vote itself, but ultimately it was passed as presented, and the next stop is the Planning and Zoning Commission. Brenner highlighted parts of the proposal, including that the cutoff time for the lights on Monday to Thursday evenings was set at 8 o'clock in order to accommodate days when both varsity and JV play games so that both can be played to conclusion. There's a lot more on that story at DarienTimes.com, but staying on the subject of local sports, we're going to throw it back to Frank Granito for a Nutmeg Sports update. Frank.
Thank you, Kate. And I'd like to offer a special congratulations to Bridgeport Police Officer Katima Rieti, who recently won her 7th national title in the javelin for Jamaica. Officer Rieti won the title with a throw of 49.89 meters, edging out national record holder Olivia McCoy at 47.29 meters and Olivia Leckford at 47.19. Unfortunately, all 3 of the females missed out on qualifying for the Olympics with the minimum throw distance of 62 meters. Last night, Cheshire defeated Stamford Senior Legion in the Southern Super Regional Championship 4-1. Needing only one more win to advance to the state championship series, Stamford was unable to close out Cheshire, who broke open the game that was tied in the sixth behind the strength of a Pat Downey home run. The teams will meet again Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. back at Palmer Field in Middletown, with the winner moving on to play RCP in the best of three state championship series beginning on Friday. And finally, we will be joined by Dave Stewart on Nutmeg Sports today to give you a full recap from the 82nd Connecticut Open. But on the subject of golf, I'd like to offer a special congratulations to Shannon Bodner, who not only aced the par 3 17th at Richter Park in Danbury just a couple of weeks ago, but she also won a car in the process. The hole, normally played at 100 yards, was backed up to 153 for insurance purposes and right in range for Bodner's 11 wood. And Kate, normally when you get a hole-in-one, it's tradition that you will buy everyone in the clubhouse a drink. Sharon tweaked that tradition a little bit and instead donated $1,500 to Ann's Place, the cancer support facility that was sponsoring the charity event.
Wow, such a cool story, Frank.
Very cool, very fun. A lot of golf on Nutmeg Sports later on.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much, Frank. Getting back to a little more news today. In a statement that stunned the New Canaan Board of Selectmen at its meeting on Tuesday, Superintendent of Buildings Bill Ostman admitted that with a heavy wind, there was the potential that the Outback Teen Center building could collapse. The matter came up during a request for $17,000 to be approved to engineer and design temporary stabilization for the former teen center. Ostman provided information about various issues inside and outside the building, including that there was a beetle infestation in the wood, before revealing the potential for disaster. He said in the event of a high windstorm or something, the building could collapse in on itself. He said, so there is an immediate danger that needs a remedy. Selectman Nick Williams called it a blessing in disguise. He said of the town now knowing what it faces with the Outback Center because there is the potential for a human catastrophe of historic proportions. Ostman agreed, saying that to have 100 kids up there dancing, it's a blessing that it didn't fall. He said if they get approval for a study, then the next question is getting funding. They've got to stabilize it before hurricane season arrives. But a lot more on that story at ncadvertiser.com. And in other news, the Milford Arts Council's 39th annual sand sculpture competition is coming up. The popular event is planned for Saturday, July 30th from noon to 5 at Walnut Beach. Organizers welcome people to bring a picnic, beach blanket, pails, and shovels and create anything from huge lobsters to mermaids. Awards, trophies, and ribbons will be given in various categories. The annual event draws over 50 sand sculptors and hundreds of spectators each year. Registration will be from 11 a.m. to noon. And for rules or more information, you can check milfordarts.org. And be safe out there, pokey trainers. That's the message the Prospector Theater and the Ridgefield Police Department are trying to get out to Pokemon Go players this summer. Check out the video they just released.
Police Department. So we're happy the community's out playing Pokemon Go. However, we do have some safety concerns and we want to make you aware of them. First off, trespassing. You should not enter a dwelling or the premises, and what I mean by premises is the property around, if you do not think you should be on there. If you have to think about it, you probably shouldn't be on that property.
Yeah! Got him!
No, I got him. The next is going to be pedestrian safety. You gotta take your heads up from the phones and take a look and be aware of your surroundings any time of day or night. Just because you're looking at the game, you can't assume other drivers are going to be looking for you, and we want to make sure that you stay safe.
It's tough enough staying afloat with the workload we have. Please be aware of your surroundings. Did you at least get it?
I did.
So there's more to that video, and we love it. And we're going to be playing the whole thing and talking about it a little bit more on CT Pulse today at 12:30. So be sure to check that out. You can also watch the full video at theridgefieldpress.com. We are going to step out for a break, and when we come back, we're going to recap some of the top stories that we're following today on your coffee break after this. For more than 50 years, Triple S has been Fairfield County's expert service for carpet, upholstery, and drapery cleaning. We provide the best in repairs and in-depth restoration, understanding fabrics and how to properly clean and restore them. Our staff will come to your home to clean your wall-to-wall carpet to perfection. We can also pick up your fine carpets and bring them to our facilities. With locations in Norwalk, Stamford, and Stratford, Triple S will get the job done fast, big or small. At Triple S, you can count on our people as well as our cleaning. Find us at triplesclean.com or 203-847-8000.
I really wanted something that felt like a home. Coming from a big house, I wanted the feel of a home as opposed to a condo. New Canaan is 6 minutes down the road. New Canaan's a beautiful little town to walk around. I work in Westport. My commute is 20 minutes. It's close to Westchester where my family is, so the location is ideal. There is no other townhome that compares in the area. This is where I want to be.
At Cabbage Patch Nursery School in Ridgefield, playtime is learning time. Using out-of-the-box activities and programs in science, dance, Spanish, Taekwondo, and so much more, learning is made fun. Aside from interactive classrooms, our center features a sensory room, computer lab, and a large outdoor space for playtime fun. Our carefully chosen staff believe in a supportive, safe environment and keeping you updated on your little one's experience. Cabbage Patch Ridgefield, helping shape your child's future. 29 Farrar Lane in Ridgefield. Call 203-340-1250 to register today. What's happening up in Hartford and what's trending in the Nutmeg State?
Join Kate Czaplinski
And Josh Fisher
on CT Pulse live Wednesdays at 12:30 to find out.
We talk to the leaders and newsmakers while breaking down the stories you should be paying attention to each week.
With the help of HAN's editorial cartoonist Doug Smith, we take a humorous look at the news of the week. We talk about everything you were told you should avoid bringing up in polite company.
CT Pulse, Wednesdays at 12:30 on the HAN Network.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN Network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
Today's coffee break is brought to you by Wilton Dance Studio. Offering dance classes for ages 18 months through adult, Wilton Dance Studio, located at 941 Danbury Road, offers ballet, jazz, tap, hip-hop, lyrical, contemporary, modern, Irish, pre-ballet, acro, and junior and senior competition teams. Home of Wilton's original Nutcracker, the studio has been in the community since 1989. Find out more at wiltondance.com or call to schedule a placement class at 203-544-9007. Wilton Dance Studio, a community dance school where learning and fun go hand in hand. We're back on this Wednesday edition of your coffee break on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski, recapping some of the top stories that we're following today, including that Ansonia Police are asking for help in locating a suspect that was involved in a violent domestic incident on Saturday. The female victim, police say, was held against her will, threatened at knife point, physically assaulted, and choked to the point of losing consciousness. Police have a warrant in that case for the arrest of 38-year-old Justin Nicholas Bond. He lives at 33 Winter Street in Ansonia. He's white, about 6'1", 200 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Police are asking that if anyone knows where he is or sees him, to contact their local police department. And in Bridgeport, the theft of a radioactive device was traced back to a pawn shop. The Connecticut Post reports that the device, known as a Troxler gauge, is used to measure soil density and is worth about $7,000. It went missing from the trunk of a vehicle that was in front of a Douglas Street home around 7 in the morning Tuesday. The trunk had been broken into and chains that were securing the gauge had been cut. The Bridgeport Police Department reached out to pawn shops across the city, and an alert worker at East Coast Pawn on Glenwood Avenue called around 4:15 yesterday afternoon, saying that he believed the man had just brought in that stolen gauge. A short time later, police arrested 28-year-old Carlos Hernandez of Noble Avenue as he left the pawn shop. He was charged with larceny and credit card fraud. After the gauge was reported missing, state police and the FBI joined in that investigation. The U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission was also notified of the theft, but state and local police suggested it was a simple theft, not a conscious plot to obtain nuclear material. And Stratford Police are investigating a shooting on Burritt Avenue reported around 10 o'clock Monday night. Police say a black man got out of an SUV and fired about 2 rounds at another SUV, which then struck a parked car. All those involved then fled the scene. Stratford Police said they attempted to interview a person of interest at Bridgeport Hospital, but that person was uncooperative. The incident is under investigation, and Stratford Police ask anyone with information to contact them at 203-385-4119. And a second moving company employee has been arrested in connection with the theft of a firearm in Shelton. 44-year-old Nicholas Patch of Milford was arrested Tuesday and charged with conspiracy to steal a firearm. Patch is scheduled to appear in court September 9th. Police say that on April 28th, the day that gun was reported stolen, Shelton Police arrested 22-year-old Anthony David Trotta of Stratford and charged him in connection to that theft. Police investigating a theft from a home learned that the victim was moving at the time. He had returned to the house he was leaving to personally move his firearm to his new residence when he discovered it was missing and immediately contacted police. The gun was found hidden in the woods down the street from the residence that was vacated. Shelton detectives interviewed employees of the moving company and determined that Trotta was involved in that theft. And videos of a Darien police stop have garnered more than 50,000 views following accusations of racial profiling by Darien officers. Bridgeport resident Matthew McGee, a black man, posted 3 videos to YouTube on July 17th showing Darien police following and stopping him as he rode his bicycle along Searles Road. Police say they stopped McGee as part of a neighborhood canvass. A home burglary was reported on nearby Old Farms Road earlier in the morning, and police said McGee matched the description of one of those suspects. McGee explains that he was on his way to work at the Tokenie Club and bikes on the route regularly. But we're going to be talking a lot more about that story at 12:30 on CT Pulse, myself and Josh Fisher, so be sure to check that out. Before we wrap things up, let's throw it over to Frank Granito for a final look at the forecast.
Again, it'll be pretty hot out there today, Kate, as we are in day 7 of this heat wave. High of 91, light breeze, and mostly sunny throughout the day, dipping down to around 70 tonight with clear skies. Partly cloudy tomorrow, a high of 89, and the humidity starts to jump up as we get ready for a weekend full of storms. Starting up early on Friday morning, thunderstorms throughout the day and into the early evening. Partly cloudy later that night, and humidity will be up around 85%.
Wow. All right. Thanks, Frank, I guess, as usual. You haven't had a lot of good news lately.
No, you know what? We're finally breaking the heat wave,
Yeah.
but we are running into just a wet and what sounds like a loud weekend full of thunderstorms and lightning. So.
All right, Frank. Well, thank you so much. We are going to wrap things up here on your coffee break. Of course, Nutmeg Sports at 2 o'clock. Frank, what do you have coming up?
Dave Stewart will be there with us. He'll be giving us a wrap-up of the Connecticut Open. He was down at Woodway Country Club, and we'll be joined by Greenwich head coach Johnny Marinelli as he talks to us about some of the 7-on-7 action the Cardinals have been involved in.
Awesome. So that's coming up at 2. And again, CT Pulse at 12:30. We're going to be talking about Connecticut at the DNC, more racial profiling discussion in Darien, and a lot more. So be sure to check that out coming up at 12:30. We're going to wrap things up here, but we'll see you tomorrow at 11. Have a great Wednesday.